Hi everyone, this is Hannah from Sugar Yums. You might know me from episode 6 of Crazy Delicious on Netflix, and I wanted to show you how I prepared the mango and basil Firefly scone as part of my Enchanted Forest afternoon tea on the show. And they're just really good. All my friends are crazy about them, so now I have to make them all the time. The first thing we need to prepare is the mango scone, which is also known as a biscuit in the US. So to prepare the scone, we want to mix some plain flour with baking powder and give it a small mix, just so it's evenly distributed. Then we want to add some salt, along with unsalted butter and some margarine as well. I find it easier to use my hands to rub the fat into the flour, but if you have a stand mixer or a very large food processor, this works as well. Essentially what we're looking for is a wet sand-like texture, just like this. In a separate bowl, we're going to mix some milk along with 1 egg and the sugar. Feel free to add the sugar directly onto the flour, but I find it easier to make sure the sugar is nicely dissolved in the liquid. Now we're going to add the egg mixture onto the flour along with some mango juice and lime juice. And use a spatula or a spoon to mix it a tiny bit, and then you need to get your hands in there. Now make sure you don't over mix it, we just want the dough to hold together. On top of that, we're going to add some soft dried mango along with some lime zest and some fresh basil, and of course the fresh mango. Now the mango, make sure that it's not overly ripe. We want it to be quite firm so it doesn't make the dough too wet. And once again, we very lightly mix it together. On a floured work surface, slowly press your dough with the rolling pin, but don't press too hard. And then we're going to use an 8 cm scone cutter, or any cookie cutter will do. I think it's about 3.5 inches. Not very good with imperial, so please forgive me. As you can see, the texture is quite aerated, so that's what we're looking for, so we can get a nice, lovely, airy, light scone. We're going to bake it for 10 minutes at 180 degrees Celsius. After that, we're going to lightly brush the scones with an egg and milk mixture so we have a nice sheen on top, and then bake for an additional 5 to 6 minutes. The scones don't need to be brown on top, just a lovely golden colour. Now the fun bit, the mango and basil jam. I like to make this in much larger quantities because it's just so delicious. So you can add chopped mango along with fresh basil, and lime zest into a blender. And then pulse it a few times until we get a nice puree. Don't overdo it so it doesn't get too liquid, but just make sure you don't have any large pieces. In a medium saucepan, you're going to add that mixture, get everything in there, and then pour the lime juice on top, which will balance the sweetness from the mango. And it's just a match made in heaven in terms of flavours, trust me. You want to bring it to a boil, careful, it does tend to jump around a bit so it can make a mess, and give it a stir as it cooks. And once we bring it to a boil, we're going to add our jam sugar. Now the jam sugar contains pectin, which will help the jam thicken up, so make sure you integrate it properly. After that, we're going to cook it for about 5-6 minutes until you get this sort of thickened consistency. If it's still too thin, you can add some extra liquid pectin. It doesn't have to be very thick, as you can see, it's quite creamy. And then cover your dish with cling film and chill in the fridge for 1 hour. Now my favourite part, the Firefly wings. Now I'm using some wafer paper here. You can pretty much buy it at any specialist store. It's completely edible, and I'm using an edible black marker to trace the Firefly wings. And the fun part, I like to use an airbrush to paint on my yellow and then green colours. But if you don't have one, don't worry, you can still use a good old painting brush along with gel food colour mixed with a tiny bit of liquid alcohol, vodka or anything like that. Just make sure the food colouring is not too wet because it can wrinkle the paper. Then let it dry for a bit, and once it's dried, just draw the veins in the Firefly wings with your edible marker. You can be as creative as you want, there's no wrong or right here. And then again, let it dry for 2-3 minutes and cut out each bit. You can make these in advance, you can store them in a jar or airtight container. As long as you don't get any moisture on them, they will be good. And now this is where we pull it all together. So to put the scones together, we need to cut them in half horizontally. And then add English clotted cream on the sides. I like to make a ring around so I can then put the jam in the middle. If you can't find English clotted cream, the cheat way to obtain it is to mix mascarpone with a tiny bit of whipping cream. It won't be exactly the same thing, but it's good enough. And then put the cooled jam in the middle. You can put as little or as much as you want. And then sandwich that in with the top part of the scone. And to attach the wings, I'm using a tiny bit of melted white chocolate, or you can safely use candy melts as well, which is much easier as you don't need to temper the chocolate. And then just attach your wings. And then we have it. Some lovely magical mango basil Firefly scones. They're absolutely delicious. I really hope you've enjoyed this recipe. Don't forget to subscribe for more up and coming videos, as well as follow me on Instagram and check out the full recipe on my blog. Link is below. Until next time, have a magical day.